Ladies and gentlemen, Brandy J's podcast, A Voice to Be Reckoned With, would like to thank you for making the right choice in choosing a podcast that moves a nation. And now, here she is in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Brandy J's A Voice to Be Reckoned With, Season 3. We are talking bullying crisis with Chuck Nasty of podcast Nasty Nation. Chuck and I are hitting home with our personal experiences as parents and leaving open the question of where is the accountability when it comes to protection of our youth and the right for them to feel safe when in their schools. This should never be taken lightly, so why is it? Everybody, you're here with me, your host, Brandy J, A Voice to Be Reckoned With. And today I have a special guest and a new friend. He goes by the name of Chuck Nasty. Chuck Nasty, are you there?
I'm right here. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. Been busy.
For sure. Well, everybody, Chuck Nasty is here today to talk with me and to you guys about the our ugly bullying crisis and the ugly truth. And Chuck has actually I find it to be a very interesting. You had your experience with bullying. You had different angles. I remember you saying that you eventually began to be the bully of the bullies, but I don't want to jump ahead, so I'm just going to go ahead and let you speak and let everybody know who you are, what you do, and let you take it.
Yeah. I'm Chuck Nasty. I am on a podcast usually called Nasty Nation. I'm the drummer and vocalist for a band called Bastard Sons of Judas Goat, and I am completely honored to be on this podcast because bullying is a problem. And like you said, I have an interesting background with being on both sides of the cards, basically. I was always a guy that I got picked on periodically throughout my life. Always kind of seen as a freak. Wore black fingernail polish in high school and, had half my head shaved, So I was picked on from the time that I was like in elementary school to the time that I quit high school, and a little bit after that too, honestly. But I started out being friends with a lot of the people that could be seen as tormentors. They harassed me, made fun of me, physically beat me sometimes, and made me feel like crap. But after a while, they kind of were like, I kind of became part of like certain groups. And I kind of just, I don't know, I became friends with these guys and thought that's how you were supposed to make friends. I was good at making friends, but I wasn't good at making friends. At the time, I was incredibly shy about a lot of things. I'm not like I am now. And I found myself like, I would find people that I liked or, in some examples when I was in middle school, there were some people that I knew from when I was little that I hadn't talked to in years. And I liked them. I wanted to hang out with all of them. So I would come up to their table every morning and just harass them and be just completely jackassy and mean. Not really realizing that I was being a jerk. Just thought that's how you did things. And that went on for a little while. Some things went on that I realized, okay, maybe I'm doing things the wrong way. And, basically I had a couple people tell me like, hey man, you're not a bad dude, but you're kind of an ass. And, this isn't how you do things. And skipping on, I found myself standing up for the weaker man if you will. And in certain cases, I would beat the crap out of a lot of the bullies because I didn't like how they were being. And I don't know, you grow up and you learn things. And lucky for me, I learned some things early on. That way I can make sure my kids, treat people with respect,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Wow, okay. So let me ask you, okay, so when you got with your group of friends that did the bullying, how did that make you feel? Like, did you feel like okay, this is it, I'm accepted, I'm in the right place? Or did you have any that kind of make you feel bad?
I didn't really feel bad at first. A lot of times I don't know, how do I word this without sounding stupid, but I guess in a way, I was a part of something, a part of just little groups that hung out at school and got in trouble together. I don't know, I guess kind of felt like the stereotypical, leather jacket wearing, food stealing punk,
Mm-hmm.
and I was okay with it for a long time, but I witnessed something at one time that really bothered me. There was a couple of people who I hung out with in middle school who they had such potential as people, and I'm not saying any names, but they were good musicians, and but unfortunately they were really, really crappy people. And I hung out with them at school. They'd give everybody a hard time. We gave each other a hard time. And we were in gym class one time, and there was this kid that was kind of a loner. He was kind of a mousy looking kid, he didn't do anything to anybody. He wasn't a bad kid. I never talked to him just because it never came about. I never made friends with him, not because I didn't like the kid, just because it never was a thing. I stood near my people or whatever, my freaks, and everybody was kind of doing a free form, like everybody was playing basketball on different different areas of the gym, and this kid's ball rolled over in our area. I walked over to grab it. This one friend who was kind of the quote unquote leader of the little group, he had been drinking vodka all day. Yeah, middle school, this kid was drinking vodka.
Wow.
And he was one of those, his dad was abusive, and he just pretty much was just taught to be, an a-hole to people. But he walked over and grabbed the kid's ball before I could, and the kid was like, "Can I have my ball back?" And again, the kid being not really a bad kid at all, my friend, quote unquote, punched this kid so hard in the face that he immediately blooded his nose, and I think he knocked out a tooth. I mean, this was a little kid, little dude, man, and my friend was a big guy, not huge, but he had some muscles on him. And I just remember thinking how horrible that was. And it's like, man, this isn't cool. It's like that this, and the bad thing is that kid that got punched, he had enough of being picked on by people. And shortly after that incident, he got expelled from school because he had a list.
Wow.
Of people he was going to take out, and so he got expelled. I don't know whatever happened to that kid. Hope things got better for him. I had this goes actually an example of being the bully of the bullies, so to speak. I had a neighbor of mine, a teacher actually, who had a couple of daughters that were younger than me, and they were waiting out by the bus stop one day, and these kids were picking on them. And he said he drove by and he saw these kids picking on him, but he saw me taking care of it, so he didn't bother stopping. Because I grabbed these two kids up and launched them across a front yard and told them to pick on somebody their own size. And after that teacher, he was a substitute teacher actually. This is before I even met him when that happened, and he remembered me, and he got me out of so much trouble in high school. He would sneak me cigarettes, and he would later be my next door neighbor. And you know, so and also he actually almost hired me to beat up his daughter's boyfriend. That never happened, but he
Wow.
he was gonna, yeah, it was a thing. He really put a lot of trust in me.
He saw you doing something that most would say, you know, wasn't okay, but you're for a good cause. You know, it was coming from a good place. You're like a superhero. You're like you know, saving somebody, you know, that was being you know, attacked.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's a whole lot more satisfying to help somebody that's really in need in some way than it is to be just a blatant jerk to people.
Exactly, for sure. Wow, and it's interesting you say that. You know, the one kid that ended up getting expelled or suspended, you know, because of the list, which is understandable because it was a list of what he was gonna. It could have played out, you know. But it's like, what about the kids? It seems like the bullies or the kids that take it, you know, are part of this, you know, are part of what's the word for bullying? I guess terrorize people. They don't really get a lot of you know, of consequences for what they do, and it just baffles me that in a lot of situations it always end up being the one being bullied that finally had enough before any action is taken, and is usually taken against the kid that was bullied.
Yeah. And in a lot of cases, I mean, you know, it's kind of crazy how it works out, because, you know, it's one minute somebody's getting his rocks off by being mean to some kid, and then the next thing you know, that same bully has got a barrel in his face and he's begging for his life.
Right.
And you know, there's a lot of lessons to be learned with this life that we live in.
So much to be learned, you know, very much. Yeah. I mean, you know, I took an interest, you know, to this in 2019, shortly after I began podcasting. A huge interest, you know, because I've always been a person that growing up, I just never really liked, you know, people that were just mean for, you know, to people, or talked down to them, or would just say, you know, just being mean to people just in general, you know. But you know, I have a son, he's 12, and you know, I work in the school system, so I've been working and teaching for like since he's in 7th grade now, so I started when he was in 1st grade, you know, and I've watched my son, you know, develop as a young man in school, you know, and how kids can be and how he was treated, and you know, kids are really mean, but you know, it's up to adults to, when you're at school, you should feel safe, you know. And so we get to another school and it got a little worse, and I noticed that my son was at this school for a couple of years and he never really had a good year. Like, it was just constant this bullshit for him.
I understand completely. I'm a parent. I have 2 kids. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I have a 7-year-old son. And now my daughter, she's not like technically mine, but I've been her dad since she was 4.5 years old. I'm the only dad she knows, you know. She's got Asperger's and a few other things, and my son, he's on the spectrum. And growing up with her, and seeing, you know, watching her different things, you know, grow, you know, how she acts, you know, just different things that pointed to this, that, and the other, you know, therapy, all that kind of crap that went on, and realizing that her way of making friends, like, I noticed that she, you know, wasn't making friends. She was kind of looked at like kind of a weirdo, honestly. And which my son, he has trouble making friends too sometimes, but he's the sweetest kid that you could ever imagine, which I'm sure you feel the same about your kid,
Yeah,
but
he is too. I get it.
right, yeah, it's a parent's love, and with her here recently, there's been some issues. She was getting picked on at school. She got pulled out of school for a minute. Her mom pulled her out. She lives with her mom, and my son lives with me. But she got pulled out of school for a minute. There was an incident that happened that I still don't know the 100% truth, because talking about schools not doing anything, you can't get them to tell you anything about anything. But apparently there was a situation where my daughter, I guess these girls were picking on her. Some like the more, yuppie, richy girls, future cheerleaders of America, that kind of crap. And my daughter, apparently, what she said is she ran towards the girl. The girl backed up into a tree, and she got stabbed by a branch. I don't really fully believe that story, actually, but this girl started yelling that my daughter stabbed her. Again, don't know the 100% truth of the stuff, but she started getting picked on everywhere she went, even outside of school. Her mom works over at the local bowling alley, and there was kids that were on a bus or whatever, and they were all saying the same thing to my daughter. There were people there were parents who were commenting and saying similar things, like just
Wow.
Yeah, and I hated that, man. She's gone through all kinds of difficulties with that kind of stuff, and so she gets picked on when it comes down to that. And as a parent, no matter if your kid might deserve it, I mean, it sounds bad, but some kids, they kind of talk a big game, and sometimes they have to be like, cut down a little notch. You know what I mean? Just a tad. Just a tad.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, not enough to make them feel a certain way for the rest of their life, but except for maybe like, okay, well, I shouldn't do this or shouldn't be this way. But you don't ever want your kid going through that shit. You don't like seeing your kids say, yeah, it's really hard. And
Hi, I'm Brandy J, a voice to be reckoned with. And if you didn't know already, Anchor is definitely the place that you want to go to record a podcast. No minimum listenership. It's free, guys. I mean, they give you these creation tools that are so easy to use to put together an amazing show like mine, a voice to be reckoned with. And I'm on season 3. Okay, you can distribute your podcast to places like Google Cast, Spotify, so much more. And did I already say minimum listenership? I mean, you can record, and people can find you in your audio library and listen to you whenever they want, wherever they want. You can record on your phone, in your car, in your bathroom, in your room. It doesn't matter. Your voice can be heard. Your voice can be a voice to be reckoned with. Also, so please go now. Go to Google Play or Anchor.fm. Please, don't miss out. Go now. Join Anchor.
Talk about my son. Like, I remember when I was like in elementary school, I was a sensitive kid. I got picked on for that. I a mama's boy by trade. And I see him, and just as loving and sensitive and nice to everyone that he is, I know that at some point there's going to be that one jerk, who's going to completely crush my son's happiness for a minute. And I don't know. It worries you, because like you said, you want your kids to go to school and feel safe. And every day and every day when I put my son on the bus, he goes off on the bus, and it takes me a second to, I get worried, because we do live in a shitty time.
Yeah,
You know,
world.
kids are mean. Like you said, kids are mean, and they're probably meaner than they ever have been.
Yeah, they don't have that remorse or that this isn't right factor. You know what I mean? Because they don't get it yet. They haven't experienced enough. You know.
The other thing though is what makes it bad is like the shithead kids from, you know, when I was in school are adults now, and they've got kids, and those kids are like going to school with my kids, and they're being the same way they were when they were younger.
So this shows you it got no better, you know, with that parent, that they're the same, you know, because you know it starts from home, you know, and you learn the behavior from somewhere, you know what I mean? Even if it's coming from some sort of pain, the behavior is still learned somewhere. That's how you express, you know, that's how you deal with it. So apparently the parents still, you know, from when they were a kid to now, you know, they're just just the cycle continues. But the thing is, it's getting the internet and everything with the cyberbullying and just it's just getting just more cruel and nasty, and it's a whole nother playing field. It's a whole nother level, which my red flags go off and don't understand why this isn't at the top of our nation's list, is when kids start finding their answer by killing themselves, committing suicide. I found out that the youngest so far has been 8 years old, that I read the other day, that hung herself due to constant bullying. And the parents kept addressing the school, as I did with this last school before this new one, and got nothing. They couldn't do anything. They have so many kids, kids are going to be kids, yada, 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 and so the little girl went off. She didn't want to feel the pain anymore, and she killed herself.
Yeah, see, there was
nobody took accountability for that or had any consequences. Not the school. They wouldn't even speak. They didn't even give condolences, and no one was responsible for it. And it's like, what do you tell the kids? What do you tell them when you don't hold anybody accountable for it? You let them think that it's okay and that they can do it. And then if no one does anything, this is what they're going to most likely turn out to be like as they get older.
Well, I mean, because what it comes down to, when like talking about the schools and stuff, when they don't do their job in protecting the students from anything like that, what it's telling, like you said, what do you tell your kids? Sorry, this is how it works. That's business. No.
They're looking at it to be like, do it.
Yeah, like they see it as like, okay, well then what's the point? Why should I even bother trying? Because nobody cares anyway.
Exactly. Yep.
And it's a sad state of affairs. We have, like you said, suicide's a popular thing again, and that was, that's a trend that I wish would have gone out with, the Heathers movie in 1980 or whatever. Like I really hate that it's a thing. My daughter, she showed me that apparently the movie Heathers. You remember the movie Heathers, right?
It's sounding very familiar.
It's Kristen Slater, Winona Ryder. It's about teen suicide. It's a dark comedy.
I'm gonna have to.
You've never seen it?
Yeah, I don't think I have.
Go check it out. It's pretty crazy to actually watch, but it's a pretty morbid thing. And my daughter was listening to the musical the other day, and I didn't know that was the thing. I'm like, you're kidding me. They actually have made a musical in a time period where kids are killing themselves because they just don't want to deal with it anymore. They made a musical from a movie that's about teen suicide. Not the best idea, in my opinion.
At all. And in my head, I'm thinking like, do these people realize what's going on? And the thing is, Chuck, I don't know if people, I don't know how they cannot know, because I'm being honest with you. I had to go and do some research. I know about this bullying thing because I'm seeing it, because I'm around all these kids. And then my son dealt with it. You have kids, and then you went through it, so you know how kids are already. It exists, and I'm sure you talk to your kids, and you know what's going on with them. But the world is acting like they do not know what the hell is going on. Just like that shooting in LA at the end of last year. Mm-hmm. And you get the news for like a good week until you hear about it, and then it's like poof, gone. And then there's nothing else heard of. Okay, what are we going to do to change this?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, I mean, you think that maybe things would have gotten better after like Columbine,
Right.
that maybe somebody might have, you know, I don't know, a stronger security, something, and they
Yep.
don't. Because I mean,
At all.
there's no.
Yep.
Look at how many different school shootings have gone on,
And still
and
nothing changed. It's like they leave it open to kids to be able to still come in and do that same thing.
mm-hmm. And in a lot of cases, the crazy thing is it's not even always a situation where somebody's been picked on.
It's outside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Coming into schools and blasting, and I don't understand it. You think that in the times that we live in, what?
I said it's baffling, isn't it?
No, it really is, because I mean, the times that we live in, they're dark. We live in very dark times. Mm-hmm. Everyone is torn this way and that. No one knows how to think anymore. A lot of people go to social media, as you mentioned, to figure out how they're supposed to think. There's no reasoning anymore. No one, when it comes down to it, it's still a war of words. And at one time, it was, with sticks and stones,
Yeah, Rick, my bones and words never hurt.
Yeah, but that's not the case.
That's bull crap.
Yeah, and it's sickening. I mean, it's like every other week there's this kid, sorry, I go all over the place sometimes. But that's another good point, is the fact that you've got these kids who are picked on, bullied. They don't have a place anywhere. And then where's the places a lot of these kids end up going to? Gangs or hate groups.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have a kid that he's a little scrawny white kid. He doesn't ever bother anybody, doesn't care. But hey, these jackass skinheads or whatever pick him up. Well, now he's a part of something. And then now he's believing everything he's being told. And then he thinks it's a good idea to go into a fucking black church and shoot it up, or go into a Jewish church, or go, whatever they're called, all that shit. It all spawns from the bullying aspect.
Yeah. I try to tell people that it affects everyone, it trickles on down and it affects and it changes. So, it can just tear across a whole, a set of events that you didn't think had anything to do with each other, but it actually, did. Because it's like you allowed this infestation to get bigger and bigger. Because I see a lot of people still to this day, like especially old school people. They were like, "Oh, back in bullying, back in the day, you bullied, that's what it was, and you deal with it, you move on, or you go out in the street and you handle it, and you fight, and you know what I mean." And I'm in my head, it's not okay, because these bullies and the person being bullied, they carry this into their adulthood. So the person that's bullied, they probably, like you said, those set of events there could happen. Or they probably just a person that just doesn't know how to treat themselves and or how to even hold a relationship. It just affects. And then the bullier, if he makes it, if he doesn't get, hopefully not, in a situation where the bully had enough, or he's in prison now, or you know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't just be bullied and then boom, bam, it goes away. That kind of pisses me off when people say that. So not true.
It's not just, because like you said, the principals and the teachers, they would, kids being kids, just boys being boys. And it's like, how many times has that been said? With all these, rape cases and murder cases, it was just accidents, as boys being boys.
Right.
Kids being kids. Well, there's a certain point where you got, kids will be kids, boys will be boys, whatever. But there's a certain point where you have to draw the line.
Yeah.
Because I don't preach to my son to go be mean to people. I tell him to have respect for everyone. And he's 7 years old, and he opens the door for everybody. And he I feel like I'm doing some right, because he does have respect for people. And
yeah, for sure.
That's how it's supposed to be. I mean, to be perfectly honest, at one time in my life, I was a very hateful person. I had a lot of bad thoughts, I was, you know, I was a hateful person, and it's the part of my life that, you know, I can't even believe, honestly, I was the way I was in certain instances, you
And you're
know.
proof that
And
it could change, and that's pretty cool, and that's awesome, you know,
well,
that you
yeah,
got
I
that.
mean, yeah, yeah, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't have the
Yeah.
opportunity to like switch.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
we're all in this together. No matter what people want to believe, we're in this together,
Together.
all of
Yep.
us.
I tell people
And
we do the same. We breathe the same. We underneath our skin and everything. We have bones. We bleed the same. You know what I mean? We are in this together. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And it's, you know, it's like, to me, that's how I feel like. I feel like I'm responsible for my part in this, you know, this world we live in, to help make, if I want my child to be in a safe place, then I have to contribute and to speak up and do what I need to do to make it a safe place. I just can't do that just single out just for my son. You know, I have to, like, we're this together. I have to do that in general
yeah,
for all of our kids. You know what I mean? We have to make it a safe place, and we have to, you know, do our part into, you know, into
yeah,
making that happen. But we need all this separation. Like, you know, nobody knows how to think for themselves. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I really feel like somebody, like alien, like who has taken over? Because people are
yeah.
just too complacent with being okay with whatever it is these days. Like, there's nobody speaking up, you know what I mean, for any of the wrongs, or there's no mentors. I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, there's no more Martin Luther Kings, or, you know, somebody that's like an advocate, that's like saying, no, this is not okay. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna just sit by the
Right.
side.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just everybody's kind of like zombies.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, oh, that's that's a totally different subject, a totally different podcast right there. But yeah, no, zombies. That's definitely a lot of how I see people these days. Because we, you know, when you're talking about leaders being up there and trying to like show some kind of positive attitude, we don't have that. The speakers that we have these days that are supposed to speak up, supposed to speak up for quote unquote us Americans, are in a lot of ways the enemy.
They are, yeah.
You know,
They have a whole other agenda.
yeah,
You know,
and it's hard sometimes. You know, they say like the devil's in the details, and sometimes you have to kind of look and see in between the lines with certain people. First off, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm try to stay away from being a political person, so I'm not naming any names or anything like that. You can read between the lines, but we don't.
Sure.
It's gotten back to a point where it is power to the people, and it's just a matter of all of us getting our heads out of our anuses and actually doing something about things instead of just being like, you know, if there's a problem, you know, with your kid in school, instead of just having a hand put to you and you being squished away out the door, you know, it's like more people need to say things.
Yes.
You know, I go to my son's school, and you know they've grown to like me there. They know that I'm a good dad. They know that I love my son very much, that I do anything well for him. But I'm also, you know, covered in tattoos, have a shaved head and a beard, and I look kind of intimidating apparently. And I don't let them BS me, and they know it, because I don't split hairs. I say how it is, and sometimes you have to be that way. I've had to be kind of mean to some of the teachers to get answers, and that's been with my son and my daughter's like school.
Yeah, you gotta be, because they'll try to bully you too. They'll try to, like, you know what I mean, or make you believe things that you can't, out of your control. They'll throw that card at parents, like, oh, you have to bring your kid to school, because, or else we're gonna call the, you know what I mean. It just really makes me mad, you know, and that's why I also, with the Stopping the Pain campaign I'm working on, I wanted it to be for parents too, and let them know. Like, I don't know if you know Bill Foster. I did a few shows with him, and he's got the movie, the Showdown at the Brazos. And he used to be a principal for 31 years and a superintendent. And so he told me a lot of, stuff and things that, that are supposed to happen, that can happen. And there are things that can be done versus when these schools tell us, oh, it's out of our control. Sorry, we can't do anything. First of all, it's bullshit. You know what I mean? And there's other solutions. But with parents, I always tell them, your duty is to your child, to protect your child at all times. Remove. And if they want to cause a problem, which is most likely, then because you've sat here and told them over and over again that your child is being, tortured, and they don't want all that, you know what I mean? And so it's like they'll do whatever, say whatever to control the situation and to make you not, so you won't say, too much. Or and it's just like, no, I tell kids, I'm like, dude, you go to school, you tell a teacher, you're being picked on, you're being bullied, and they need to do something. And if they shut you down, don't sit down. Stand in the doorway all day long and say it to the rooftops. They'll get tired eventually. What, you're going to get suspended for what? For, you know what I mean? It's like, do what you need to do. Don't just walk away and shut down. You say, hey, no, stops. I want to call my mom. You know what I mean? I'm being picked on, being harassed, I always tell kids, go home, tell your parents, talk to your parents. And let them know what's going on with you. It's the littlest thing. Let them know. It's just crazy. Even with adults, you can't even trust adults. I tell them, like, look, if there's ever a moment where there's an adult telling you to do something that's inappropriate or do something bad that you should not be doing, you need to go home and tell your parents.
Right, yeah.
You hit another kid, you know what I mean? Because there's adult bullies too.
Oh, yeah. No, I've dealt with a few of them.
It's really sick. It's morbid and sick. When you have a person that will have kids, you know what I mean? Fight against, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know what's going on these days. I just know that no one's saying anything.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you've seen in the news and in the papers and stuff. They mention bullying, and they're cracking down a little bit more on things, but it's still being kind of swept off to the side.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about some of the bullies, I don't know in your situation growing up, like whatever, but for me, the jocks were always the ones that I had a lot of issues with. Even though I was asked to be on the football team, and I completely declined that in a very funny, brutal manner, but I won't even go into that. But they picked on me all the time, and when you tried to go and tell the principal or the coach or anybody anything, they always were going to do something about it, but they never did, because the only thing they really ever worried about was their sports teams.
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of funny when you really think about it. How things are these days. My mom was never afraid of. Mom knew. Our parents know that you go to school, that eventually you're going to have to deal with somebody who's not so nice to you.
Yeah.
And
for sure. We just got to prepare our kids for that mean, ugly person.
Yeah. But growing up from when I was younger, there wasn't like a fear, of another kid stabbing another kid.
Right. It's a whole different time now. Yeah. That's the scary part. Yeah, it wasn't like that in my time either. So that's why it terrifies me so much, because it's gotten to be that way now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely gotten to scary proportions these days with what kids and adults will do to try to show their toughness, or just to show how mean they can be.
Yeah.
It's
and a lot of times those kids that are bullying, a lot of times they are dealing with something outside of the home or at home too. Or a lot of times they're being bullied, or there's some kind of pain, something's going on, and then when they come to school, that's where they take it out on. That's where they feel like they have some control. But they're inflicting their pain upon someone else, because that bullying is coming from some sort of pain, And so it's like no one's doing anything about the bully. You know what I mean? The kid that's being bullied, which shouldn't have to you still, live that way. And then you're not doing the bully any service. You're doing a disservice because you're overlooking it. And then you don't know what that child could be going through at home too. You know what I mean? It's like now that child has no one holding them accountable, or even trying to redirect or change the behavior or see what's going on with them. Because kids, they're not, okay, some adults aren't even emotionally equipped or know how to really process and deal with stuff. So you get a kid, hormones and all this stuff, they have a lot to deal with. I wouldn't want to be a kid all over again. The pressures of just being, at that age and fitting in and stuff, and so it's like they don't know how to process things the way we should know how to. So you just let this kid alone just to have to figure out life by themselves. They don't know any better in some way, even though they should be held accountable. It's like it's not even really their fault because they're not supposed to parent themselves.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All this is crazy.
Yeah, and then that's a sad, and that's what it all comes down to. It boils down to how kids are being raised. If you got a father or a mother that are abusive, or verbally or physically, and the kid's just gonna go and think that's just how you're supposed to act. Or they're just going to be pissed off all the time, and they're going to take out, their aggressions on everybody else just because they're mad.
Yep. And it forms a way of one child looks towards like another. Say, for instance, like women. If a kid or they either are going to emulate, how if their father was that way with their mom, they probably have this view of women and that they're beneath them, or they're, Because I see sometimes within. And I see how some boys I see this one kid, he's always up in some girl's face, like just in there, and I sit back and I think, I'm like, where the heck have you learned that it's okay for you to constantly walk up in some woman's face and just talk to her as if she's another male? You know what I mean? And it's like, that's gotta be something he's learned that you've seen, because he does it with so much aggression. You know what I mean? Like he thinks that's okay. So that's his outlook I see so far, and it's okay to treat women, and it's like that's all that's going to do is just come back to bite our society in the ass, because you just be growing a monster there.
Yeah, I mean, because you have those boys that in a boy's situation, he sees that the mom does this and does that, and the dad does nothing but yell. Or vice versa, maybe the mom, drinks too much and yells, things of that nature, and think that that's how you're supposed to treat each other, and because I've been in relationships where the girl which I would be dating had very dysfunctional parents that cheated on each other. They were verbally and physically abusive to each other. And a lot of times she acted as if that's how it was supposed to be. And it was just like, man, you need help.
Wow. And that's all she knew. So it was like she didn't know any better. Wow.
Yeah. Just like it's what we're born and bred to, be the sponges that we are, to pick up whatever information that we see or read or whatever. And sometimes it isn't just educational. Sometimes it becomes a life.
Yeah, exactly. It's about education. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. For sure. I think educational, that's just not even half, just part of this, you know what I mean? Because with or without it, you can have all the education in the world, you know what I mean? And if you don't have the rest of it, then it's pretty much useless. There's nothing you can do with that, because you can't socialize. You're just messed up. You don't know how to act, you know what I mean, amongst people. It's just how nobody likes you. You like no one. They're not fit to be a part of, the normal person of society. You got to learn how to socialize and you know what I mean? Work with, you know what I mean? You got to know the time and the place for things and how to speak and how to act. It's just, and I see a lack of it. It's so much. I always sit back and I scratch my head like, dude, if that was me and I spoke to an adult like that, I would have no lips right now. Yeah, 'cause my mom
Exactly. Yeah.
put them in her purse and held on. So I got my mind right. And the kids these days, they just talk crazy. And I'd be like, well, damn.
Kids have no respect at all for anything anymore. And a lot of times it goes back to the parents. A lot of times, you just
that all parents all the way.
yeah, they're the ones that they're like these days. It's like there's no discipline. It's just like, okay, go run with Jimmy and Billy. I don't care. Go on. Just get out of my
They don't
face.
deal with it. They're like, go on, just go on. They're not
a lot of these
expecting
kids.
them. So they're like, let's go.
Yeah. A lot of these kids don't know what it's like to be grounded from TV for 2 weeks.
They don't get that stuff done to them, which they should.
Oh yeah. No discipline. That's the biggest issue. No discipline.
The kids, and as much as you would think, like, I don't know, for me, I didn't get like a lot of consequences being younger, because I'm not trying to toot or act like I was some great kid, but I mean, I wasn't perfect. I got in trouble, but I didn't have much that, okay, put it like this. My mom and her yelling was enough for me. Okay, that was it. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, I'm sure I'm not gonna call my mom and yell, talking. Hers, that right there was enough, for me. But that's not everybody, and that was a different time. And now these days, kids, they're so just used to that, and they're not even listening to you anyway, because they're on their gadgets or whatever. And I always tell people, you got to take what they love the most. You got to break them down. Take them phones. My son acted like he was cracked. He went through the withdrawals.
Yeah.
But I took that phone.
Yeah.
And I had to stick to it too. Sometimes parents will be like, okay, well, caught up and be like, well, I got to do this. Okay, go ahead. And they're just like, or they won't follow through. You know what I mean? And then the kid, and I've done that a few times. This last time I said, cross the lines, and he just acted like it was just the end of the world.
I've had to be. I'm a little bit of a pushover, and when it comes to my son, I have to be. I've been trying to be a little more stern with him, because he knows how he can pretty much get his way just about any time. So I've been trying my best to discipline him whenever he needs discipline.
Yeah, you just got to stay in the role, because sometimes kids don't know that it hurts us to have to see them. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't enjoy it. Sometimes I'll be like, but I got to stay in character. I got to follow through. I can't show the weakness, but it's like it pays off. I always tell my son, "You'll thank me later." You hate me now. You hate me now. Okay,
that's true, though.
You're doing my job right.
Oh yeah, it's true though, because I mean, like in the future, there's been times where I've looked back on times where I was a shithead, and I've thanked my parents for being a certain way with me, because I don't think I'd be the man that I am today if it wasn't for being raised at least somewhat right,
Right. Well, they say it starts at home, and it's so important that, everybody doesn't have that, the opportunity that you had or that I have had when, from home, because sometimes home is the problem.
Yeah.
They're not getting what they need there, and home is the place they really don't need to be. So that becomes a whole other issue. But I think personally, it's all doable if we stop worrying about all the wrong shit. You know what I mean? Like, just back off, chill on Donald Trump for like a minute. You know what I mean? Just let him tweet. Cares. Let him do what he's doing right now. We got more important, pressing matters going on here. Okay, we have our kids dying, and they're supposed to be the future. Okay, because we're not going to be here forever. So they're the future. They're going to be the one taking care of us. So, but what are we doing if we're not giving them a chance, a platform where they can stand on and to do what's needed if no one's giving them a safe place and one that is stable to do it on? So is this like the end of the world or something? Because what's to come next if we don't even have the right situation to put kids into to be as great as they are or they can be?
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that.
Yep.
There is it's a strange reality anymore. It really is. I mean, like, going back to kids being mean and being like meaner than they maybe used to be. It's like you said, these are the kids who are supposed to be our leaders, and they're going to be the ones that are either leading us to the promised land or taking us straight to hell. So
into destruction.
yeah, completely. Like, because I don't know. I see some kids when I go to like school functions or whatever with my son, and I see some kids with their parents. I'm just so grateful. I've got such good kids that actually they got a lot of promise. I'm pretty proud of them.
Yeah, sure. I get it. And I feel the same way. We always, like we said before, well, of course we're gonna say good things about our kids, but no, I really, as far like I can sit back and say these things about my son, just as him as an individual. He has really good qualities, and he's like doesn't have a mean bone in his body. He's like a boy's boy, a guy's guy, like a really good friend. And the kids at school just like really give him a hard time. I said, he's that kid that if something was to happen here, we got like an earthquake or something happened, he'd be that kid that looked around for you and would want to go back and get you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he's that guy. He's stand-up guy.
Yeah, that's my son too.
So it's like and it makes me see like that. Okay, well, I have done something. Because all parents are going to be harder on ourselves and like feel like we failed them. Every time something goes, goes awry, it's like, oh my God, what have I done? What did I do? What I did not do? And we just have. It's just that's how it comes with being a parent. But we really sit back and see who our kids for who they really are, and if you can sit back and see that you have a great child and that they're good to others. I judge people on how they treat other people. Themselves and other people. I don't really care too much for people that are shady or that I watch how you move with other people, how you treat other people, and that's how I kind of decide if that's what I mean. Or if I want to deal with you, and it's like that's. And I noticed that with my son that he's very caring. You know what I mean? He thinks of others. He sees somebody on the street, and and we do that often. We'll help somebody out. And, it's always about somebody else, and I dig that. So I'm like, okay, well, I did something right, I guess.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no, my son's about the same when it comes to that. He always wants to help people. He always has questions about things. He feels sad, when he sees somebody that, maybe looks like they don't have, a good life or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes you feel good, but again, it also goes down to like, what can I do to make them more safe?
Yeah, because the ugly truth that's out there, ready to just like gnaw at them and take, and because they're so kind and good. It's like you have to like wreck that for them, or because the world is going to wreck that for them, But we just want them to be able to handle it because it's going to happen. Just be able to handle it. I put my son in boxing. He was already dipping and dabbing over a few years. He's training more now, just to like for the discipline and for protection. To be honest with you too, you know what I mean. So it's kind of short, But it was a good way to direct his, energy. And then he's not in a regular school anymore. I took him out. It's a school where it's just independent study, and he has to just go and work, and then they go home and they work. There's no social, so I had to find a way for him to get his physical fitness and to still be able to socialize with other kids, but in a structural manner.
Also shows discipline too.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the route I took, and with dealing with, all stemmed from dealing with bullying within schools at that,
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that your story, a successful story at that too, because who you described who you used to be and the hatred that you held, and that's not you anymore. You know what I mean? That's amazing, and your kids are lucky. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure that you have plenty of stories for them too. And I think your son is going to be okay. You know, all of our kids will be if we do our parts though. You know, as parents. You know,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and I would love for you to, whenever you can, come back on, or when we're, you know, because I'm really trying to find like a really strong foundation of people that really feel strongly about this and want to. My foundation called Stopping the Pain, for nonprofit that I'm working on, you know, is to be able to stop the pain. Exactly what, you know what I mean? It says,
Yeah.
you know, of kids feeling like they're going unheard, you know what I mean? And they have to deal with this or either take their own life. So I would really be honored if, you know what I mean, you would want to be a part of. It's still a work in progress, but I think you have
Sure.
to really bring to it. And I've dedicated my life to it. So
Yeah, no, I'd be honored. Yeah, man. Just anytime you need me for your thing, just holler at me.
okay, for sure.
Good cause. Definitely a good cause. It's that's why I was so excited about being on here. Was the fact of, okay, well, let's talk about this subject. This isn't a subject that usually is, you know, mentioned at like, dinner parties. It's good to actually go outside a little bit. It's okay. Let's talk about something besides horror movies for a minute.
Right. For
So
sure.
I'm definitely down anytime.
Yes, for sure. Okay, well, thank you for coming, and we're gonna close this out. But I want you to stay on, okay?
Okay.
Yes, don't go anywhere. But everybody, so thank you for listening, tuning in with Mr. Chuck Nasty. And Chuck, you want to let us know, our listeners know exactly where they could find anything on you and what you do, any links or anything like that?
When it comes to the podcast, Nasty Nation, you can find it on Anchor, on Spotify, on Pocket Casts. You can go to the Romero Pictures Indie Brigade website. You can find stuff on there, on me on there. There's merch on there as well. You can go to the Facebook pages, Nasty Nation and Indie Brigade. Let's see. And then there's Bastard Sons of a Judas Goat, my band. You can find us on Facebook, on Bandcamp, Spotify, and all the places where you can really listen to music. And YouTube and stuff like that.
There you go. And definitely, I'll be putting these into my website when it's done, and then also on my podcast too. So definitely will be, you're a family of a voice to be reckoned with now. So.
Oh, well, excellent. Well, thank you. I'm honored.
You're so welcome. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us, and have a good night. Peace. Okay. I just want to say thank you to Chuck Nasty of Podcast Nasty Nation. Thanks for coming on and sharing your personal experience as, dealing with bullying when you grew up, and then your personal experience as a parent and your children. You're definitely most appreciated here, and thank you for shedding more light, in different ways to this bullying crisis that we have, and that this is a serious deal, and as a nation, as parents, as leaders, we shouldn't tread lightly with this, because as we see for facts, as the results have shown over and over again, mass shootings, suicide. Who wants to think of this? Who wants to even have to say this is our reality? But it is. And whose job is it to protect our children? Yeah, it's our job. So what are we doing? Let's wake up. Let's stop the pain. Thank you. And this is Brandy J's, a voice to be reckoned with. Peace. If you would like to be a guest on the show, if you have any experience with bullying or know someone that has, or even if you haven't and just want to speak your voice, please feel free. Get in touch with me. Message me on Facebook, Brandy Singleton, or email me, brandysingleton512@gmail.com. Thank you.